I'm Dr. Bart Rademacher, and this is the Doctor's Guide podcast, Raw and Unfiltered. And once again, I'm so blessed with amazing guests on this show that will deliver some very useful information that you're going to want to hear to help you on your journey to optimize you, your health, your life, and your longevity. And why do we do this? Well, the truth of the matter is that there's so much information out there on the internet. It's really very hard to discern, what's real and what's not, and what's appropriate for you and what's not. And even I, as educated and as smart as I think I am, I get confused. And so the truth of the matter is that at the end of the day, it's up to you, the listener, the viewer, to make the right decisions for yourself. And so rather than promoting a particular product or selling a service, the idea of today is we are sharing with you the process by which you can make better decisions about your health. And so my hope is that through role playing, as one person presents with a problem and the other will guide them to some form of resolution, that you will see yourself in this process, or perhaps somebody that you care about, that you can then help them understand the process by which they need to go so that they can optimize themselves. And so it's helping you with a decision-making process that's pretty much universal for everyone, whilst everyone has a different problem. So for today, what we're going to do is we're going to have each of my guests introduce themselves just briefly. We'll then go into the role play for about 6 or 8 minutes, after which we'll unpack that so that you get some very specific insights and action steps that you can take. And my hope then is that you will begin a better journey to optimize you. So for today, Dr. Rhoda Donat Flowers, thank you so much for joining me. This is our second show together. You're a powerhouse. I'm so impressed by all the things that you do. Just briefly introduce yourself, and then we'll go with John, and then we'll start the role play.
Thank you for having me. And you are absolutely amazing, an amazing host. So thank you. Thank you. My name is Dr. Rhoda Donat Flowers. I'm a board certified family medicine physician. I'm also a certified executive coach and serial entrepreneur. In addition to helping people with their health through medicine, I've also owned several urgent cares, an urgent care chain, as well as primary care. Successfully sold those. So I also help with business consulting with other physicians who want to be in business. Uh, the thing that I'm most passionate about really is wellness and well-being, helping people to see how they can optimize their health and well-being to live the life that they truly want to live.
And there's one thing I appreciate about you, Dr. Rhoda, is the fact that you successfully run several businesses. You had your exit plans and can definitely be an example and a model for other doctors out there. Because the truth of the matter is, as doctors, we have spent way too much time just learning the craft of medicine and not enough time in running the business. John, you run a business. You run an amazing aesthetic business. I love the integrity from which you come from. So briefly introduce yourself, and then we'll go into the role play.
Sure. So yeah, I run a cosmetic doctor's office in New York. We're 100% non-surgical. Actually, and our leader is a surgeon. So she's found the most valuable and effective non-surgical procedures, which is what we offer. But I am so happy to be here and looking forward to, I'm so blessed to have the opportunity to get the wisdom from you both.
Great.
And I
No,
can't
thank you
wait.
so much. And again, need to edify John a little bit more because he's holding back. What I love what he does is that he's done extensive research on all the technologies out there that can help, with the anti-aging process or the rejuvenation process, however you want to call it. But it does it with such incredible integrity. And this is the kind of person that you will want to go to for your personal cosmetic needs, because he's just going to steer you right. And he's going to make sure all the things you do not want to do. So Dr. Rhoda, I know that you are the guide today. John, you've got the problem. We've got about 6 minutes. Take it away.
So lately, I mean, I had a great ride from my 20s to my 50s and, running 5 miles a day. I mean, I was just explosive. And now I've lost my energy. I play around with amino acids and supplements, and I've tried everything. And I just don't even know what's important anymore. I feel like I have to start all over again. And love to hear what, what you think works, what works for your patients. Is there different things for different age groups? I have no idea anymore. I'm lost. I would love to get your help.
Absolutely. So, thanks for coming in today, John. And there are definitely different things for different age groups, but we definitely want to figure out your why. Why is this important for you right now?
I just feel like, I don't sleep well. I don't have the energy I used to have. I don't feel like running. I don't even feel like walking lately. I was walking a couple miles a day last summer, and then now all of a sudden I've lost that too. So it just feels like something's wrong. I do regular blood tests, so there's nothing wrong. But I'm wondering what type of programs you put your patients through,
Yeah.
uh, and your recommendations.
So I'm
And
definitely glad that you were getting your routine physical. So that's the first thing that I would definitely recommend is that we do our routine physicals and we make sure that we get our annual blood work. In addition to the annual blood work, there's some other things that we can look at to see what might be deficient. We none of us get out in the sun as much as we need to, right? So I always make sure that I have someone on a bioavailable vitamin D. Sometimes we're taking the capsules, but it's just not bioavailable. And we're also not supplementing with some other things that our body needs to really absorb that vitamin D. So I would look at, how you're doing with your magnesium. Are you taking a B12? Are you taking your vitamin D? Now, you mentioned to me that you run or you used to run, but you don't have the energy. Really important that we get some sort of physical activity going, right? Because when your body, well, how is it said? A body in motion stays in motion, right? A body at rest stays at rest. So if your body sees that you're not out and about, it doesn't want to get out and about. So we really have to turn that switch and maybe start with a light walking routine, right? 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes can become another, 5 mile run for you. So we can definitely talk through creating a regimen to do that. I would also want to know, John, as we age, we tend to lose collagen and we tend to consume less protein. So I'd like to know what your diet looks like. Are you getting enough protein? How's your water intake?
okay.
Not just the
Oh,
water you drink, John, also the water you eat, right? So our fruits, that's a type of water. So it's hydrating to our body. So I want to know all of that information.
hmm. Do you okay. Yeah, that sounds really good actually. Do you recommend a certain B12? Is it supposed to be sublingual or something like that? Or
So it really depends on the patient, John, because I have a few patients who uh, they don't absorb the B12 well, right? So they may have celiac, for example, so they
hmm.
may not absorb it. So sublingual is a good choice for them. The liquid version is also a good choice for them, right? So you have your tinctures that you can take. So that's a good option.
Do you recommend I remember one time many years ago I did this test where they measured all the vitamins in my system. It was like $2,000 or something. Maybe that's something I should be doing. Did you recommend some? Because I do my blood test like as often as the insurance will pay for it, even 3 times a year. So if they'll, because but is there any other, more esoteric tests that you recommend?
That's a great question, John. So you do your blood test annually, but I'll tell you, the insurance company may not pay for the extensive panel. So it is an additional cost, but it's well worth it because we get to see what are some elements that the body truly needs that may not be available. So I would recommend that someone does take the extra step and get the additional panel.
Yeah, yeah, I do. Yeah, because I am taking testosterone and growth hormone, so I get the full hormone panels as well. So I
Okay.
have that, but I know some doctors, really go for some really, unusual tests. And I was just wondering if you had any favorites that you would, I mean, obviously I'd come see you and then we could, be more specific and granular with me, but is there advice you would give everyone, that we to look at, do the mineral test or something like that? That's just more
So
generalized information.
so everyone is different to your point, right? So some people, for some people, I may recommend doing saliva testing. Some people might require, tests that require hair testing, or some require, I don't know if I can say this, but stool testing, right? Let's look at your gut microbiome. What's going on in your gut? Because fixing your gut, right, may actually, or addressing the gut rather, may help with the energy level, right? So it really depends on the individual, what we find on their preliminary testing, and how their lifestyle factors need to be taken into account.
Oh, yeah. You know, that what you just said was brilliant, because I remember a long time ago I did neuroscience with the saliva and the urine. So, you know, the cortisol and you know, everything, what's cranking at what time of day, make sure that the good stuff, the excitatory hormones are cranking in the morning. Yes, so you recommend that as well, I'm guessing.
Absolutely. And we also look at, you mentioned earlier some sleep challenges. We also look at sleep hygiene first, right? So it might be to fix your sleep, we would just need to do a detox 2 hours before bedtime. We're not on the screen, right? Maybe we're taking some time to have a bedtime routine, right? Do some journaling, take a power walk, take a warm shower. So we really look at you holistically because it's not just one area of life that can fix a challenge, if you will.
Oh, okay. Now I'm getting very excited, because you really do. This is, as much as I do cosmetic stuff, this is my passion, and you know your stuff, and you know the most important things out there, and even some that I wasn't really thinking about. Which yeah, it sounds really brilliant.
Awesome. Do you guys want to wrap it up?
Sure.
Yeah, is there anything else? Yeah, I mean, I get it. If I was under your care, you'd be like, okay, let's start this and this and this, and and we would go through it by step process. I love it.
Yeah,
It's terrific.
absolutely. So I look forward to seeing you, John. One thing that I would ask before you come in is just take notes. What is your diet like? What time do you get to bed? What are you doing just before bed? How do you wake up? How do you feel when you wake up? So these are some of the questions. Having the answers would be tremendously helpful for me to really be able to drill down and help you best.
Yeah. So do you have people do food diaries as well?
I do. It's very important. It does help me, but it also helps the person who's doing it because sometimes we eat things out of habit or, just because we have the munchies and we're just not really aware of how much we're eating. So it helps both of us tremendously.
Last time I kept a food diary, I stopped eating because I didn't want to write it down. I was too lazy to write it down. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to eat that because I have to write it down.
You can actually use an app for that now, so you don't have to write it down.
Awesome. Well, great job, guys.
Sound terrific.
So first of all, I want to ask John, what was that all about for you, and give us context?
Well, I mean, it's real. And there's things that I wasn't really thinking about, like B12. I wrote a lot of things down, B12, magnesium, just to even start walking. And then I forgot all about the hormone testing with the saliva and the urine. I forgot all about that. That should be maybe the first thing of order for me. And, thank God you're a brilliant enough doctor to know all these different types of testing that one can do in addition to the blood tests and the hormone tests. Yeah, we can get very granular with these very specific tests. And it's nice to know that you're one of those way brilliant doctors that know all those different things and all those options and all those tools. I would recommend you to anyone in a heartbeat.
Dr. Rhoda, what was that all about for you?
So no, it's very interesting just to be able to address the different ages and stages and genders, right? So I see all ages from pediatrics to geriatrics. And, to John's point, every age and stage requires a different level of care, different micro distinctions, if you will. So really having to put on the hat to say, hey, we can talk general, but let's really talk specifically about you. So that was very important to me.
So let me jump in. So great conversation, great dialogue. Hopefully somebody is witnessing themselves in the fact that they're losing energy. And the truth of the matter is that our genetic blueprint is pretty much determining what happens in our body based on what the environment is giving our bodies as well. And so it's never just our genetics, but it's the decisions we make, it's the lifestyle choices, it's the toxins that we're exposed to, all sorts of different things. And so Dr. Rhoda has done an amazing job to put a lot of this in context. But the first part, what I feel is important, is a threefold, and that is, the responsibility, root cause, as well as data. And first of all, we need to be responsible ourselves to find the right doctor and do the right things. And then the doctors need to be responsible to know more about this stuff like Dr. Rhoda does. Unfortunately, many of my colleagues do not, because they become so hyper specialized and myopic. But it's time that we shift that tide back towards being more generalized, because our patients need that. The other part is that the root cause, while a lot of people just look at some of the lab testings, we really need to make sure that we have a complete picture, which Dr. Rhoda shared with us. And that's not just the vitamins, but it's also very much so your microbiome. And I was shocked to learn about the microbiome about 5 years ago. But the microbiome is everything, by the way. It's a whole new organ system that we didn't learn about. I'm sure you didn't learn about that either, Dr. Rhoda. That is a major game changer because like 95% of all of our serotonin is actually found in our guts. And for those people out there who are not familiar with serotonin, that's the happy hormone. Dopamine is the motivation hormone, but that's the happy hormone. And then ultimately getting all that right information. So brilliant job, both of you. Dr. Rhoda, what would you like to have the listener learn more about, or what's present for you that you feel that with this example that we need to do more of?
Yeah, so I really appreciate that you highlighted the gut microbiome piece of it, because a lot of people, are walking around perhaps with anxiety, maybe with depression, just a depressed mood overall. But yet the diet is, processed, highly processed. We don't have a lot of, things like, and it could be natural, right? Sauerkraut or other things that could give you good microbiomes. We're heavy on antibiotics in our culture. A lot of things that really strip away the good bacteria. A lot of our challenges, or a few of our challenges, I don't want to over exaggerate, can be addressed by really fixing the gut, right? Taking probiotics, perhaps adding yogurt to the diet, kombucha to the diet, sauerkrauts, or some other form of like a prebiotic or a probiotic, right? Some people take one when they might need the other, or both, right? So really focusing on the gut could make a tremendous impact on health. I'll share this as well. I've had a few patients who are younger, right, who present with, maybe attention deficit, or, maybe having challenges in the classroom. And once we address the gut, brand new kid, right? So it's really, really important to do some research on things that you can do to support the gut.
No, I love that. And just to add on to that and give a little more context, our body is composed of about 70 trillion cells. And this, I almost fell on the floor when I heard how many microorganisms we actually have. And that's 700 trillion, so 10 times as many of our own cells. But what's even more shocking when you think about it is that only 1% of our DNA, of the DNA that we have, is our own. The 99% is all the microorganisms. Crazy. And so what does that really mean? Well, that 99% of the DNA is doing something in your body, certainly affecting your nervous system and your brain. It's certainly affecting your immune system. It's certainly affecting your skin. It's certainly affecting everything. And so you're absolutely right, Dr. Rhoda, to state that, one of the key areas that we need to look at is our microbiome. Anything else you want to add before I ask John what he wants to share?
No, that's thank you for adding that context. You're right. Sometimes we have personality shifts. You've heard the term hangry, right? When you're hangry, you haven't eaten. Yeah, that's because your gut is really dictating your mood, and it's pushing you in a direction or another. So I just can't emphasize the gut health enough. So thank you for highlighting that.
Yeah, and in fact, things like psoriasis, as much as it's considered an immune disorder, which it is, but quite likely the origin of it, again, the root cause is in the gut, because one thing that does happen in our body is that when our digestion is inappropriate, then the particles are partially digested. Somehow they enter the bloodstream, and then the immune system recognizes these as foreign, and then it can manifest itself in skin issues and skin rashes and all sorts of other things. And so definitely, how our digestive system really works is such a important part. It's not just, the nutrition that we eat, but also all the junk that we eat. And as you mentioned, all the antibiotics that we consume. So yeah, there's a lot to unpack all of that. And of course, finding someone like Dr. Rhoda, who's got extensive experience, and also understands the level of testing that's essential to guide you is such a key point. What was that experience for you there, John, as on the receiving end? I mean, you said you're getting very excited about this. What shifted in you, and why?
Well, I mean, as much as I do my work, this is my passion. And I've had the good fortune. I had, celebrity nutrition, good friend in New York. And I went to like the top doctor. I'm not even gonna say what college in New York. And I was just shocked after $1,000 or whatever. He calls me back and says vitamin D. I'm like, that's all you got? I mean, and to be here with you guys and be talking about, the microbiome and this and that, you mentioned the serotonin, like, it's just, you guys are so, I know, I mean, I know for me to learn is just spectacular to be with people that are so knowledgeable that there's yet a whole nother level of things to learn. And I just so appreciate that, both of your knowledge.
No, thank you for that. And actually talking about vitamin E, fun fact, that's a term that we like to use in the Sean Callaghy unblinded community. Fun fact, I'm working actually with a company which I would absolutely highly recommend. They are light years ahead of anybody else in genetic testing, and I'll definitely introduce you to them as well, Dr. Rhoda. But that's the DNA company. And what they've done is they've mapped all the different metabolic pathways based on your genetic material so that you fully understand, what things are good for you and what things to actually avoid. May not necessarily help you avoid any kind of cosmetic technology from John, but everything else it can. And so my point is that the founder of the company, his story that he likes to share all the time is that his niece was suffering these panic attacks right before her menstrual cycle. And interesting enough, I mean, she is 14 years old. She started her menses around 12, and it didn't happen until like halfway through our COVID pandemic. And so she first started with normal menstrual cycles, no panic attacks, and halfway through the pandemic, she began having all these crazy attacks. And interesting enough, I mean, it had nothing to do with COVID specifically, but what was interesting is that she had several attacks and he saw the writing on the wall. And the writing on the wall was, well, she's going to be admitted to the emergency room one more time. She's going to be labeled a mental case, and she will be prescribed mental drugs for the rest of her life. And so he chose, fortunately, to dive into her genetic blueprint, figure out what was going on, and to find out that one of her metabolic pathways was inadequate or insufficient in processing vitamin D, and vitamin D was essential in processing the hormonal balance. And so what was happening was that because she had a deficiency of vitamin D, her hormonal pathways were out of whack, and that just had a biochemistry in her brain that just made her go nutsy, and she had these panic attacks. So it made a lot of sense. And so, what do you think his prescription was? I'll ask you both, John.
Probiotics.
Huh?
Probiotics.
No, vitamin D, right? So because she lacked vitamin D, right? So his prescription was go out and play outside.
In the sun.
And that's it. I mean, it's incredible. And this is what I love about this kind of work, because when we find the most natural way to harness the potential of the body to restore form and function, it makes a lot more sense, because there is what I call a body intelligence. There's a brain intelligence and there's an energy intelligence. There's an intelligence within us. And we try to outsmart nature, but that's never going to happen. So why don't we just figure out the intelligence of nature, and do that. And that's why these kinds of things are so important. And I know that both of you are very much in tune to that. So as we do wrap it up, any final thoughts, Dr. Rhoda?
So I love that story that you told. Thank you so much for creating that context, because sometimes the answer is simple, right? But imagine how debilitating her life was without finding that answer, right? So taking the extra step to find that answer was phenomenal. And I'll also share this. Sometimes with vitamin D especially, you can't really take enough. So we have to supplement with the sun, right? So that's just a perfect example of holistic care, of really drilling down, finding the root cause, right? And then having a simple answer. So thank you.
Yeah, and no, thank you for that, Dr. Rhoda. And you did mention something earlier about John, about sleep hygiene. Such a big element. If we don't sleep well, has a major impact on our health. A lot of studies have associated poor sleep with cancer and strokes and obesity and all sorts of things. But having sun exposure before noon for about 30 minutes has a major impact on sleep every day. So make sure you get that, John. Any final thoughts on from you, John?
Well, you may both have cured me already because I was being a little bit brave and going out for walks even in the winter. And then I stopped the past few months. And sure enough, my sleep is off, my energy's off. And we had an unusually warm winter, but we're having an unusually cold spring. So I haven't really been out this past month or so. And it might just be that simple. You both may have just cured me that quickly. Just got to
Thank
get
you
that
very much.
sun for energy and sleep.
Dr. Rhoda, how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, so they can reach me on the website, DONATFLOWERS. My last name, denatflowers.com.
Awesome. John, how do people get a hold of you?
It's precisionaestheticsmd.com. A little tough to spell, but you'll find it.
So I want to thank you both. You both are powerhouses in your particular areas of expertise. I'd like to see a lot more doctors like you, Dr. Rhoda. Our communities deserve a different type of medicine than what we're used to. No criticism of my colleagues out there. I mean, the system was placed in front of us and we just rolled into it thinking that everything is going to work out the way it's going to work out. But the truth of the matter is that things do need to be very, very different. And that's one of the things that I'm personally championing. My mission, vision, purpose is to lovingly disrupt the current healthcare model and deliver a democratized and unified one where every stakeholder has a seat at the table and wins. And what that really means is looking outside of what conventional medicine gives us. It gives us a lot, but certainly doesn't have all the answers that we need. And with you guys out there championing this as well, we can definitely make a difference. So I want to thank you again, both. My name is Dr. Bart Rademacher. This is the Doctor's Guide podcast, raw and unfiltered. And as a listener, I hope you learned something from this. Maybe you got triggered. That's also part of the point because that means it's a message from the deep that says, yeah, you got to work on something and there are solutions out there. One thing will definitely trigger a lot of people is when I say that we no longer have an excuse to be sick because nowadays we have amazing individuals like my guests out there, but also the information and the technology that can absolutely help us as long as we find the right people to guide us and we make the right decisions ourselves. Thank you so much, and I will be back.